Here you see the visible horse with the skeleton painted on her body. The skeleton is the framework for the body. The leg bones act as levers that move the horse, and they also support him. The joints are where movement takes place, and joints can also help absorb shock. The bones protect the internal organs, the brain and the spinal cord, and they also provide attachment points for major muscles. The axial skeleton includes the skull and the spine, and its job is to protect the brain and the spinal cord. The appendicular skeleton includes the front and hind limbs and the pelvis. The horse's skull is relatively large and heavy. His head contains his brain and the major sensory organs of the eyes, ears, nostrils, and tongue. It's important in eating, in breathing, in balance, and also in communication. The horse's brain is about the size of a human fist, and it's located between his eyes and his ears. Because of his specialized vision, a horse changes the height and angle of his head to focus on near or distant objects. The head is the horse's balancer. It's a heavy weight at the end of a long, flexible neck. The posture, carriage, and gestures of the head and neck affect the balance of the horse's whole body. Like humans and most other mammals, a horse has 7 neck bones or cervical vertebrae. The first one is called the atlas, and that's the first cervical vertebrae, the one that joins the neck to the skull. The second is called the axis, and then we have the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Notice that the horse's neck bones do not run along the top of his neck, but create a slightly S-shaped curve. The nuchal ligament is a broad, elastic band of connective tissue that connects the bones of the horse's neck with his withers, like a big web. It's a strong, powerful connective tissue which helps support that heavy head and flexible neck, but it's elastic enough to allow the horse to put his head down and graze. The nuchal ligament connects with the dorsal ligament that runs the length of the horse's back, like a big strap along the top of his vertebrae, and goes down between the spines of the vertebrae. The nuchal ligament stretches when the horse lowers his head, for instance, to graze. But when the horse lowers his poll, it also pulls on the back and helps raise the back. This helps to round the horse's back a bit, for instance, when a jumper stretches his head and neck over the top of a fence. The horse has 18 dorsal vertebrae. Those are the back bones, or the ones with the ribs attached, and those are the ones we ride on. The dorsal vertebrae have long spines that stick upward. If you've ever ridden a skinny horse bareback, you have encountered the dorsal vertebrae spines. The ribs connect to the dorsal vertebrae, and there are usually 18 pairs of ribs. And the ribs come out and around and attach with cartilage to the breastbone at the back and bottom of the chest and up through the front. The rider sits on top of the ribs, and when we ride horses with a saddle, it's important to observe a few precautions so we don't hurt the horse's back. First, there should never be any pressure on top of the spines of those dorsal vertebrae. Those spines are unprotected by muscle, and they're as sensitive as the bones in the back of a human hand. So a saddle must allow a clear channel and never sit directly on top of the spines of the back. Second, the back of the shoulder blade, which is painted in pink, has a large cartilage attachment. Every time the horse takes a step, that shoulder blade slides. As the foreleg swings forward, the top of the shoulder blade goes back. So it's important that the saddle is set far enough back to allow that shoulder blade to swing, and that the saddle tree is wide enough that it doesn't pinch the shoulder with every step the horse takes. A horse that is being poked or pinched or rubbed in this area will have a hard time moving and is very likely to get serious saddle